Okay, good morning. It's July 1st, second half of the year 2015. This is Confessions and Reflections and Confessions of the $50 Billion Man, and we're on our way to Edinburgh Airport. I've been up since 3:30. Excited. I had to get a lot of stuff done before this trip. So we had cut our trip, as I mentioned in the last podcast, because we had to come back and there was a lot of things that had to get done, not the least of which were some Zoom calls that I wanted to make sure the reception was good, and at sea, or even on a ship when it's in dock, it sometimes varies. So we're off again. We'll be back in about 12 days. I started working on the new seminar. And speaking of seminar, I just got word late last night that one of our superstars, Robert from Passau, or Bavarian Bob as we call him, who's attended 11 seminars straight since I started the mentor program, the formalized mentor program in mid-2010. It will be attending his 12th seminar in August, which I'm somewhat surprised after 11, but because the 11th seminar that he came to, he brought his 15-year-old son. So I expected him to be there for his son's inauguration, so to speak. But he certainly knows the material. But if he were here, and as he said to the seminar attendees in June, which was his 11th seminar, he requires rebooting or another dose of Dan, and to keep it fresh in his mind. And several other of the high performers have been 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and it sounds self-serving that I mention it, but it's the truth. So you take it for for what it's worth. The information's free on the podcast. So you take it for what it's worth. I've also been working on a change in the seminar. As I mentioned in the last podcast, the first seminar that I attended in 1974 was Psychology of Winning by Dr. Dennis Waitley, and he introduced me to the idea of winners think differently, i.e. the psychology of winning, and it's been a very successful seminar for decades. But more importantly, he introduced me to my future mentor, Jim Newman, who had mentored him. Jim, I took action right away, and I attended one of the seminars, and changed the way I think. And I went from a micro thinker to a macro thinker, and life has more or less been my oyster ever since. So we're introducing a new section to the seminar, and it's the psychology of the high performance person, because the high performance person is different than the psychology of winning. Winning is, not necessarily being the best that you can be. Winning is a way of thinking, a way of life, but I mean, being a high-performance person, being all that you can be, is significantly different. So we're going to adopt a new section into the seminar, and I'm not going to wait till next year to introduce it. I'm going to introduce it in the August seminar that's coming up in about a month's time. Actually, less than a month's time. The seminar that will start the last couple of days of July and go into August will be ending 2 or 3 days before my 70th birthday, the gala affair that my wife's been planning in the last few months. And so I recommend, or I suggest, the people that are coming to the August seminar, it's a shame to come all this way and not stay for the gala 70th birthday, since you're invited as a Castle alumni. Since just in the last few days, since I gave my last podcast from this car, I've had several conference calls and Zoom meetings, the monthly Zoom meetings with the seminar attendees. When you've got 20 plus kids that are part of these conference calls, these Zoom calls, where I can see all their little pictures of their faces, I mean, it takes some time. So, I mean, they're running now minimum 2.5 hours to as much as 3 hours, 3 hours and 15 minutes, because we get through everybody's story, what they did right, what they did wrong, suggestions that not only I make to them, but the suggestions that are made from the other attendees that are part of their group. And so we had some very interesting Zoom calls. And one of the new sections that we've added to the weekly report is we start with what was your passion before you came to the seminar? What's your passion now? And that changes. So for the people that attended in June, that's only 3 weeks ago. So and almost always their passion has changed. In addition, we asked, what was your business idea when you came to the seminar? And what's your business idea now? And it doesn't always change dramatically or 180 degrees, but it certainly pivots, it certainly morphs, and it certainly adapts as they learn more about being all that you can be. Another section that we've newly added to the weekly reports to get them to think, to get you kids to think outside the box and not just look for an answer from me, is that there's a section in the weekly reports that's questions. And so when you ask a question, I ask you, well, what do you believe that the three alternatives are, or the three possibilities are, so you can answer your own question. And then I help you pick the best of the three, because 99% of the time, one of the alternatives that you come up with is the best. Or if it's not the best, then I help you refine it to make it the best alternative you can be. And it's quite a useful technique. I've used the technique in the seminars, but again, I just only recently started using it in the weekly reports. And I asked myself why the fuck I didn't think of it before. I have no idea, but I didn't. But the important thing is I'm doing it now. This is coffee, and yes, it is Bulletproof Coffee. For those of you that have asked, keep asking me that. And a number of people have asked why Sally and I look so good in our pictures that I posted on social media. And somebody's, I don't know if it's been a smart ass or not, said, is it the Bulletproof Coffee? Well, since I think Sally's had a grand total of 1 cup of Bulletproof Coffee in her entire life, maybe 2, and at least half of those 2 cups were when we attended Dave Asprey's seminar last September. So her good looks have got nothing to do with Bulletproof Coffee, and I rather doubt if whatever my looks are has anything to do with Bulletproof Coffee. But we exercise and we eat pretty well. We don't eat as well when we're on traveling because Sally, I won't say makes me, but I drink when I travel. And when she's sitting next to me giggling, and when I'm home, I don't drink, or very rarely drink. And so, but when I travel, we go on cruises or we go wherever we go, I normally have, 1 or 2 drinks a night I hate to say be a social drinker. I will be drinking at my birthday party, and I also drink a little during the seminars. But I drink more when I'm just traveling with Sally than I drink at the seminars. And I don't drink so much at the seminars for some very obvious reasons. Number one, I want to be absolutely 1,000% fresh the next morning. I get up at 5:30, 5:45, every day for the seminars. And some days I go to bed at midnight. Some days I go to bed at 10:30. So that's one of the reasons I don't drink. Plus, I find as I've gotten older, they're wasted calories. I mean, I'd rather eat my calories than drink my calories, as opposed to 30 years ago, I drank more calories than I ate, probably. So we've still got 1 or 2 spots left for the seminar that starts in about a month. but I'm positive that we'll have a full contingent. We've had a couple more people sign up for the Christmas QLA Hardcore Seminar, and I'm positive that'll be fully booked as well. Right now we have 4 or 5 kids that are bringing their significant others to the Hardcore Seminar. And again, the Hardcore Seminar is only for those people that have come to the Castle Seminar. Even if you came to the Castle Seminar 10 years ago. I mean, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through why you are the way you are, why you have the baggage, why fear is false expectations appearing real. We're going to go through case study stuff, how you make decisions, etc., which we also cover in the regular Castle Seminar, but we only cover it the last 2 or 3 days, and we're going to cover it the whole 10 days. We're going to have a lot of examples. We're going to go through the examples of some of the attendees and how they can improve their own business models, etc. And speaking of Dave Asprey, since I mentioned Bulletproof Coffee, he will be attending my 70th birthday, and I'm looking forward to seeing him there. I haven't seen him since I attended his seminar in September of last year in Pasadena. We just had a couple more people had their first board meetings after they've accumulated their chairman. I'm not part of these deals. Their chairman, their dream team, their accountants, their lawyers, etc. And so it's likely that I will use them as examples in the seminar through Skype, as I did in the last seminar when I had Tony and Chris share their successes, some of their failures, what they learned in building a dream team and leading up to their first board meetings. So we've got a couple. We've also got a guy that just recently completed his first acquisition, which I believe I mentioned in the last podcast. And if we can schedule it right, we'll have him share how he got that done and how it took him 4+ months after he thought it was already closed, and candidly after I thought it was already closed, based on the information that I got, to actually get this fucking thing closed. And because you can never underestimate how wrong you can be, and you can never underestimate how funky financial institutions that can change their mind at the last minute. They want more collateral, they want more information, etc., etc. And there's no way that you can practice for that. There's no way that you can learn that, and you certainly don't learn it in any school, undergraduate or graduate school of business. They don't teach you that. And as I've said, and you've heard me say, when I used to teach at business schools, first 3 questions I'd ask them is, number 1, how many classes have you had in selling a business? No hands go up. Number 2, how many classes have you had in buying a business? No hands go up. And number 3, how many classes have you had in leadership? Now they do have a few classes in leadership, but back in the early 2000s, certainly in the 90s and early 2000s, virtually no schools had any classes in leadership, unless you went to one of the military academies, Air Force, Naval, or military, Army, or Coast Guard Academy. You never had any classes in leadership. Now that's changed. There are classes in leadership, and there are classes in entrepreneurship. But at least so far in the syllabuses that I've looked at vis-a-vis classes in entrepreneurship, they weren't that great. They didn't teach that much. Are they better than no classes in entrepreneurship? Yeah, they're better than that. But there's certainly, if you read the 4 or 5 books that I tell people that they should read, you don't need to read any more than those 4 or 5 books. They're better than the classes that they have in the schools on entrepreneurship. Now, admittedly, I haven't seen all the classes, and there may be a class at Wharton that I don't know about on entrepreneurship that's terrific. But I mean, the classes in the outlines of the classes that I've seen are pretty suspect. Now, we've had some good news about my reality show. We have in the U.S. we actually have a show name, and they're beefing up the outline of it, which I should get in the next couple of weeks. And I could conceivably be doing interviews with studios or major stations as soon as this summer, later this summer. But it's still not for sure. But I look forward to that, and I told them that I'm available, other than the other prior commitments that I've already had, and certainly my 70th birthday is coming up in a few weeks. But other than that, I'm pretty open to whatever they want, whether it's in Los Angeles or New York City. The possibilities for where the show might air has expanded slightly to major networks in America, but we're going down two different approaches. One still the cable, and two more recently the major networks, at least one major network. And so I look forward to that. And and just as recent as yesterday, we were contacted by another production company that's done a lot of shows. In fact, I'm going to have a call with them from the airport when I get done with this podcast, and meet with them in London on the way back from our trip. Sally and I are on our way to Spain, Italy, and France. And so we look forward to it, although we've been to Spain, Italy, and France several times. Right now, the weather in Scotland is unbelievably warm for Scotland. It's supposed to be in the mid to high 20s today, maybe even the low 30s, which happens, once a year, if that. And it's as warm as mid 30s, the high 30s throughout Europe, which is considered a scorcher. And I'm sure that they'll be closing down business. As I give this podcast, the banks have closed in Greece, and they've defaulted. The first country to technically default to the IMF, the National Monetary Fund, if I understood it correctly. But in addition to that, Puerto Rico is going bankrupt, and that's got a slightly different bent, because Puerto Rico is a United States sovereign entity, and you don't have to pay U.S. taxes, or you're a U.S. citizen if you live there. You can be, and it's a tax-free haven. So, and I have at least one successful mentee that lives there, so I'll be interested to see how it affects him. But Puerto Rico is going bankrupt now, depending on whether Greece stays in the euro, with the euro, and stays in the EU, goes back to the drachma. Their former currency is up in the air. Some people like to see them leave, and some people think that it would be too debilitating for the EU. I'm a believer that even if they leave, it won't be that debilitating. Although their debt ratio is significantly higher than the rest of the European Union. There are countries like Spain, Italy, to name a couple, that have big debt ratios, so it could affect them. We'll have to see. I am in the process of just a slight update. A number of the kids that are going through the year-long mentor program have asked me, a number of the kids that aren't going through the mentor program ask, can they get in the mentor program without coming to the Castle seminar? the answer is no. Since formalizing the mentor program in mid-2010, it's been extremely successful, but we, meaning me, will not allow anybody in the program unless they go through the Castle Seminar. And that's not going to change. For those of you that listen to these podcasts, it's a question I get quite often. Another question I get quite often is, can somebody trade something with me to get entree, not just to the mentor program, but to the Castle Seminar, which then leads them, gives them an entree to the mentor program. Do work for me for free, etc. And the answer is no. I get a lot of offers like that, and although they sound great, and I'm sure some of them would be great, I'm not really interested in that, because I want to see you make a commitment. I want to see you make the pay price to action. And I just heard Mark Cuban, the owner of the Mavericks and a billionaire guy, a very successful guy. He commented, I believe, yesterday in his tweets, and I got it as a retweet, so I don't know if he made it yesterday or the day before yesterday. He said in short, the biggest thing that kids don't understand is you got to make sacrifices and you got to work your ass off. I couldn't agree with that more. And I don't know the context of what he said, how he said it, but I did see the retweet, and he's absolutely correct. I've gotten several questions about the recent split up with Donald Trump and NBC. And Donald Trump this morning, if I heard the news correctly when I was getting ready, has sued, I think it's Univision, which is the Spanish television station, broadcasting company, for $500 million because he's not going to be able to put on the Miss Universe and the USA pageant now. Or if he puts it on, it's going to be with great difficulty. And he said that he's been damaged. I don't know how that's going to work out. But at least the last I heard, he has not gone back or retracted any of the things that he said that were taken to be insensitive by many. I don't really have a call on that. And I was also asked recently, I was interviewed for a podcast last night, and the podcast was on the shoulder of Titans. And I was asked what my call on Trump in general, and more specifically Donald Trump running for president. And I said that many of the things that Mr. Trump believes, I believe as well. He's an outspoken guy. He doesn't really give a shit what anybody thinks, and I'm pretty much in that same category. I don't really give a shit what anybody thinks. But whether he's truly running for president or not, only he knows. But I think that most of his endeavors are there to promote the Trump brand, and so that's his prerogative. It's a free country, and at least in most of the world it's free, so he can do what the hell he wants. And I wish him good fortune. Now, we are continuing the $50 Billion Man podcast where I answer questions, but some of you have asked me if I, since this is a more casual environment for podcasts, and I'm not sitting there in my uniform, my three-piece suit, and you say I look more relaxed, which I guess is probably true. If I can touch upon, pun intended, some more touchy-feely subjects. Now, I'm not sure what that means. Touchy-feely, I understand touchy-feely intellectually, but I don't know what it means vis-a-vis what you want me to talk about or comment on. But I'm not such a touchy-feely guy, although a lot of people attribute many of Mother Teresa's attributes to me, which I certainly don't deserve, because they won't be making me a saint when I'm dead. I can assure you that. But as I said in my interview last night, with Dan Loke, and he's the one that is doing this on the Shoulder of Titans podcast. When you've been successful and you've generated wealth, created wealth, you have more choices. And the people that you see, like the Gates, Steve Jobs when he was alive, and various people, Ellison, they do a lot of good. They do a lot of charitable things because they've already created the wealth, and then they have more choices. And even Donald Trump does good things. He doesn't publicize them because I believe it's not part of his brand. But he does, some very generous things, as do Sally and I. The idea or the mistake that I believe that the kids make today is they feel entitled, and why they feel entitled, I don't have a fucking clue. I don't understand that, but they obviously think that somebody has done them wrong. And the world's fucked up, maybe because of my generation or the generation that came after me. And that's very different thinking than my generation, because my generation thinks the generation that came before us, was the greatest generation, and that's the generation that fought the World War II and shortly thereafter the Korean War, to keep fascism, etc., away from the planet. How successful we were, that's a completely different question. But I don't look, and it's difficult for me to look, and now that we're, the seminars, I'm giving, roughly twice as many seminars now as I did in recent years, and we've got at least 50% more people in each seminar, and so we're getting, a lot more data, but the data just reinforces the fact that most kids, even if they were poor, have a foggy notion that they're entitled somehow, and they think that by reading books they're going to learn more. And I've said that reading books is only procrastination. Reading books is so you don't have to pull the trigger and take action. Again, one of my most successful mentees hasn't read, I don't believe, any other book than mine, and yet I have a mentee that just finished the June seminar three and a half weeks ago. In his weekly report, he told me that since the seminar ended, he's read 4 books on financial structure. He hasn't got a chairman yet or a dream team, and he's reading books on financial structure already. Well, he's reading those books on financial structure, in my judgment, to put off having to go make calls or send emails to find himself a chairman and a dream team. And he's read 4 or 5 more books than the other superstar mentee has ever read. He's never read any books on financial structure. The only book that he's ever read, and he's read it a few times, is mine, The First 100 Million. Because that gives you the cursory basic knowledge that you need to go out and find a dream team, put together deals with no money, get accountants and lawyers on what's now called delayed fees, which used to be called success fees, and get deals done. And and you learn by trial and error. You learn by getting your nose bloodied. You learn by accruing scar tissue. And there is no secret, there is no holy grail, and even coming to the seminar isn't the holy grail, but what the seminar does for you is it gives you the tools, and you can never say again, I didn't know how to do it, I don't know how to create wealth. And now, after 22 years, we have so much success, so many case studies, if you will, of people that have done it. When I was talking to Dan Loke last night, when he was interviewing me, and he's talked to Dan Loke is Chinese, and I've been working with him off and on for about 12 years, And he said that when people call him, he said that invariably two things come up. Number one, I'm not Dan. I don't have, okay, that's a given. And in conjunction with that, I don't have the communication skills Dan has. How good do my communication skills have to be? And even one that overrides that, he said, which is really part and parcel of the first two, I'm not, do you have to be an alpha male? And I've said repeatedly, you don't have to be an alpha male. I've done a podcast, do you have to be an alpha male to be a high performance person, use QLA? It's not one of the most watched podcasts that I have, which is interesting, because 98% of the people that follow QLA aren't alpha males. And again, I say this until I'm blue in the face. 99.9% of all the people, they say millions now, that have used QLA successfully, I have never met, I've never talked to, I've never link fucked, face fucked, or tweet fucked. 99.9% of them. I would know if they pissed on my foot. And they've done it on their own. The only people that I've actually interfaced with back in the day when I gave seminars around the world, which I haven't done in 10 years, and for 22 years, the council seminar. And maybe, a couple, not maybe 1,000 people have come to the council seminar. Maybe. I don't know. Something like that. 100 a year, yeah, that's probably right. No, 50. Yeah, maybe 1,000 people have come to the council seminar in 22 years. And those are the people, and I've worked with hand on their head since 2010, the last 5 years. So you don't need to meet me. Although I have some meetings on this trip. Sally and I are just starting, both in Barcelona, London, and so I think someplace in Italy. But it's there. The model's there. The shit works. There's no question about that. I want to really emphasize, in closing this edition of the podcast, is that you got to take action, kids. You can listen to my podcast from now until you're old and gray, or old and grayer than I am. But if you don't take action and you don't take risk, I made the analogy, and I've said the analogy many, many times. You're a turtle, and a turtle can't move forward or backward anyway unless it sticks its head out of the shell. If you don't take a risk and you stick your head out, you're never going to accomplish anything. And most of you have led bubble-wrapped lives. Most of you have led in your tortoise shell. I said last night in this podcast, for those of you that have started a business, and many of you have started a business, your first 50,000 revenue or the first 100,000 in revenue is geometric growth. Why is it geometric growth? Because you're starting from zero, ground zero. So you know how to do geometric growth. When you start a business, you're all excited, with your idea. You're working long hours, you're working over the weekends, then something happens, and you start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. So you want to make QLA work. You want to make the rest of this year, the second half of 2015, work for you. Take risk, pull the trigger. Until the next time, peace.